Greetings and welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. We're going to take a little bit of a tangent here this week and talk more about displays because large format displays are changing. The technology is changing. Gee, I go all the way back to multi-stack. I go all the way back to slideshows and slide timers with dissolve units. But let's not talk about my Kinderman and those days. I lived through plasma screens saying they were going to die, and eventually they died. And now we've got a lot of direct view LED and a lot of other technology. My guest on this show is Aaron. I want you to introduce yourself with a company called Neoti, who was new to me finding out about it. I know you're not a new organization. Tell everybody who you are and what you do in the industry.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Dave. My name is Aaron Kipfer. I'm the CTO here at Neoti. And Neoti is a direct view LED display manufacturer. We've been around since 2006. We started kind of in a backwards way. We started as a digital signage company first. And so that allowed us to then integrate direct view LED technology into our digital signage roots, which then allowed us to kind of leave those roots behind, but take everything that we learned in the digital signage arena and apply it to what we know of the technology in direct view LED. And then we started, eventually producing direct view LED ourselves, through contract factories and things, because as everyone knows, there's only so many factories actually making this product, or making good product, I should say. And so we're all using the same factories to produce product in China currently for the majority of our products. We do have a subset of products that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But yeah, that's who we are and that's what we do.
All right, so again, I'm the technical novice, the generalist. So I don't know a lot of
Mhm.
specifics, but I know a little bit about a lot. If we're talking about direct view LED, I guess the history of display screens of this type, I guess the direct view kind of came from large format displays, outdoor displays. I remember putting some
Mhm.
stuff up in Times Square, and we were talking about pixel pitch, and then the blue LED came out, and that was really exciting. When it comes to personal or enterprise type displays, we're talking about what used to be first plasma, and then it was
Mhm.
liquid crystal, illuminated by fluorescent or LED or whatever the type was behind it. And direct view
Right.
LED removes that illumination piece, right? The devices
Correct.
are bright enough and making their own lights, and the pixel pitch has gotten so much better and such a higher quality that we can now look at it from a close up instead of all the way down the block in Times Square. Is that fair and accurate, or did I miss anything?
Correct. No, you're right on the nose there. So direct view LED is just that. It's red, green, and blue crystals that are tightly put together to create a pixel, for lack of a better term. And then that pixel, mixes that red, green, and blue crystal together to make white, or really any other color in the spectrum. But it's doing that through the current lighting the crystal, which allows it to be directly viewed, which is the difference between, what LCD, and that's why it's called direct view LED, as opposed to like maybe an LED TV where it's just LEDs lighting up through the liquid.
Got it. Understood. And if my understanding, I remember my additive and my subtractive primary, so I know how you get all the colors, the RGB, and then it's cyan, magenta, and yellow, and nobody ever remembers yellow. But
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah,
um,
right.
these are now products. Obviously, these are still products that are available, or technologies. Products, the wrong word. Technologies that can light up a sign in Times Square or the Sphere in Las Vegas, or in it's all it's the size and pixel pitch and crystal. But now your products and other products on the market are applicable to the conference room and the boardroom and the company digital signage. There's
Mhm.
smaller form factors for these modular installations where you can actually be up close and you don't see the pixelation that you would have in the past. Is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when we first started, early 2000s, 10 millimeter was amazing resolution at the time, 10 millimeter pixel pitch. And we have come so far in a very short amount of time to where now less than 1 millimeter pixel pitch is easily attainable. And we're also starting to see 0.5 millimeter, zero point 0.4 millimeter. I mean, we're starting to get really down close to those, OLED and micro LED technologies where the technology is kind of uh, basically pushing the path forward to bridging that gap between what we know as LCD technology and direct view LED technology.
Okay, that's great to know. And forgive me for not
Mhm.
knowing this, but how do you productize that? Are there off-the-shelf products that you make? Are there custom sizes? Do they have to be special ordered each time? How do you go to market with it?
Sure. So our products in general are standardized in cabinet sizes. So just like any Lego building block or something similar, you will buy it in the blocks that you need, the sizes for, and then those put together to make a seamless display at any kind of size or shape that you would like. Um, Obviously, direct view LED being what it is, and the type of manufacturing method that it uses is different than for like an LCD TV or a similar type of TV scenario where you're really boxed into a specific size, a specific resolution. Direct view LED kind of breaks all of that open, and it can be created at the modular level, which is in a lot of cases could be as small as like a 4 to 6 inch square of LED, that as long as you can provide some sort of a mounting cabinet to it and give it power and the right protocols and things like that through the receiving cards and through the control system, you can literally make it any shape or size that you want. Or even in the case of the sphere that you mentioned, make it into puck size shapes and then connect all of that together. So it really is kind of limitless in the type of shapes and displays that you can make with direct view LED, which is part of the reason why it's been pushed so forward in its technology.
But again, the rub on the pixel pitch there is when it's made to something of the size of the sphere, it really only looks good from a great distance. When you get up close to it, it
Right.
doesn't. The eye will not put together the pictures that are being formed. That's persistence of vision,
Correct.
or can I forget which one of them it is, but it's one of the biological
Yeah.
rules about vision that we are able to put it together when it's of a resolution that we can understand.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah. And in situations especially like TV studios or now XR studios that are becoming more and more popular, you have people who are standing really close to a display. So they need to be able to be close enough to where you can still make out the picture no matter how close you're standing. Especially in boardrooms and applications where we're starting to even see this in residential facilities or residential homes and things where people are actually starting to make entire walls of TV instead of just an 80-inch TV or something like that. And so the technology is advancing quick enough and the price is dropping fast enough that we're starting to see so many more doors open up in different market segments and different applications.
Okay, terrific. Well, that was a
So it's
great.
no longer just at Times Square.
That's a great primer for everybody that's watching here that's curious about the space. So tell me
Yeah.
about the Pantone certification. I saw that when you guys were
Mm.
displaying the product at NAB, and I don't exactly know what that means. I spoke to another retired gentleman who's been covering displays for his entire career, and I've been spending quite a bit of time on displays. And neither one of us had ever heard of Pantone getting involved in certifying anything of this size before, if at all. So
Mhm.
why are they doing it? What does it mean, and why is it special?
Sure. So for us, we've always played on the performance and quality side of our market segment of our industry because we have always tried to push the envelope for what's possible with direct view LED. We've always been behind the camera a lot of times, so a lot of our products have been on broadcast studios or in broadcast studios on live broadcast events and things of that nature. And whenever you're playing in that field, you're looking for more than just size. You're not, and you're also looking for more than just pixel pitch because pixel pitch can only get you so far. It's really what's being shown on the display that's really what people see. Because, like as you mentioned, the further back you get, or if your camera's far enough back, you can't make out the pixels anyway, and so pixel pitch becomes irrelevant. But the image that you see will always be relevant because that is what your eye is taking in.
And you also have
And
to white
so,
balance it for whatever the white balance is in. I remember having to take an old
correct,
CRT and take it way out of whack so that it would shoot correctly under tungsten lighting, which was the standard at the time,
correct.
3200
Yeah.
degrees Kelvin.
And that's one of the great things about direct view LED as a side note is that the configurability of direct view LED is such that you have full control of the color properties of that LED display in these really large sizes, where with LCD displays, especially as they were starting to be used as video walls where you have multiple displays in an array, everyone has seen an array with where one TV is slightly off color than the rest of them, and it just throws off the whole balance of the overall look. That can happen in LED displays, direct view LED displays as well, which is one of the reasons why you have to pay attention to the quality of the display, the quality of the control system that's being used, and then also making sure that things like batch matching and other technical details are all synced. And if that's the case, then you have a much less chance of that display going crazy over time and starting to look like a patchwork, quilt of different, color temperatures and things like that in different modules. I mean, everybody's gone through Vegas or New York and looked up at the displays and have seen these, some modules are brighter than others and some are dimmer than others, and all these other different factors that can make a direct view display look uncalibrated or not as clean as it was the day that it was installed. And these are all types of things that kind of flow into what led us to the Pantone validation, because our focus has always been on making sure that that display looks exactly the way that the user wants it to look, not only the day that it's installed, but throughout its 10-year lifespan.
Yeah, so does that help you, the Pantone validation, in terms of the color matching and getting multiple displays to match in a public environment? Believe me, I would get the midnight phone calls from the companies in Times Square that we were working with, that somebody just replaced one of the square pixels and it doesn't look like the rest of it. Why wasn't it color matched?
Exactly.
I mean, does it make life easier around
exactly
that?
So the Pantone validation is definitely an amazing end result for us, because that was validation that what we were doing was on the right path. To get to there, I'll back up just a little bit to talk about how we got there. So last year, we introduced a product line called UHD Pro. It's a series of product from 0.8 millimeter all the way up to 2.5 millimeter. So it's in that narrow pixel pitch range. For conference rooms, for broadcast studios, for design centers, for marketing firms, for places where that high level of quality of performance matters, especially in situations for like broadcast studios where they run everything at low brightness. So the key factors of that Pro series, the UHD Pro series, is low brightness performance. So when you're talking about 10-bit or 16-bit content, especially in those low brightness, as you lower the brightness of your LED display, you start to lose that. It's no longer actually 10-bit. It's no longer actually 12 or 16-bit. And so the performance at those low brightness levels still has to be good enough that you can see those grays and those darker colors, those dark blues and dark reds and things of that nature, so they don't just completely disappear, as has inherently been an issue with direct view LED at low brightness levels. So that was kind of our first problem that we dealt with. Then after that, we started looking at how do we keep this consistent throughout time, throughout the life of the display? And so what we started doing was we designed a control system and LED product all in one. So majority of display manufacturers work with a third-party control system, whether it be Novastar, Color Light, Megapixel, Prompton, those types of control systems, because those have become the standard in the industry. But they're marrying those with, LED product that they're producing, just like we are. We're producing an LED product, and in most cases, we're putting it together with Novastar because that's kind of the standard. But in this specific UHD Pro series, we spent time developing the control system and the LED together, which gave us all of these other options, because now we have full control of the entire system. We have full control of every single component along the line. And we can create our own, algorithms. We can create our own customizations to the system to get the best performance that we can out of it. And so as we did that, we realized not only can we control low brightness performance, but now we can control color performance much deeper and much better than these other systems can, because we already knew how they worked. We already know the protocols that they use and the type of ways that they're allowed to control the system. So we designed into our system a much better way to handle those properties and a completely different proprietary protocol than all the other systems are using. We build it basically from the ground up. And so it allows us to get the full potential from the IC drivers, from the diodes that we select, and then making sure that we obviously select quality enough drivers and quality enough diodes and things for the performance that we need out of it. But then that also led into, because we are able to do a much deeper calibration, we're able to store many more details in our module calibration data, and continuously poll each individual module in the entire system. Then we're allowed to keep that calibration consistent throughout the life of the display. So if you take a new module and you put it in a 6-year-old display, immediately when you put it in, it's going to look different like everybody else's does. But then within about 5 to 10 seconds, what you start to see is line by line, that single module will adapt to all the other modules around it, and eventually smooth itself out automatically without any human interaction, which is a complete differentiation in this industry. And so that's one of the factors. But all of that to say, the Pantone validation allowed us to prove that, number one, we do have that full control of the color and profiles that are being loaded into the system. So if you're sending a signal with a specific color profile, it is going to be faithfully reproduced on the LED display, just as it is on your calibrated monitor that your designer used to design that content. So for things like, brands that are very color conscious, like Coca-Cola, John Deere, T-Mobile, those that have actual specific Pantone colors that they need to reproduce, and that they're forcing the print industry to reproduce, they're forcing other industries to reproduce exactly the way they intend. We decided to take what we knew we could do and put it to the test with Pantone to say, look, we need you to validate this and make sure that this is what we think it is. And that's where we ended up.
All right, that's a great story, and it makes a lot of sense in that,
Yeah.
if the colorimetry and the color reproduction of the displays is true to Pantone, so somebody could punch in a number and have that number come up, and also have it come up regardless of the brightness or the lack of brightness on the display. That is something that is most definitely moving the industry forward. And I'm wondering if you think, and you don't really have to answer this, but I'm wondering if you think your competitors are going to follow suit, or if they're going to claim it's unnecessary, or what the story is. But it certainly raises the bar for true color reproduction in these displays.
Yeah, I think we're going to see both of those statements come out, especially, as Infocom approaches. We unveiled the Pantone validation at NAB this year, and Infocom is the next big show.
Right.
And so I expect both of those statements to be made. One, it doesn't really matter. And then two, we're in the process of becoming Pantone validated as well. And to that, we understand that Pantone validation isn't necessarily an end-all be-all for everyone. Not everybody cares enough about that, especially when cost is on the line, because the Pantone validated product does come at a small increase in cost because we're using higher quality components, things of that nature. And not every market segment cares about that. We're still in a very, a commodity-based product line
Very,
right
very
now.
much so.
Understand that.
So I'm not going to be
Right.
throwing it into my regular enterprise conference room, but if I have a boardroom where the
No,
board of directors meets, or if I have a showroom or a
correct.
profile space, this is definitely something that I would want to consider, especially if I want a very large palette to put multiple displays and multiple images up on. I'm assuming in that case, you probably
Exactly.
need to work with an external processor in order to manipulate multiple
Yes.
images. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's really, we understand how, narrow of a market segment this is at the moment, but really what we feel like is it speaks to our capacity, not only to produce high quality product, But then what we're focused on, we're not focused on trying to make the cheapest product, trying to make the most cost conscious product. We're focused on making a product and building a reputation as Neoti to create product that's pushing the level, that's actually going to what is next to matter. Because right now, pixel pitch can only get so far before it's zero. And then we're into a completely different category. And so pixel pitch can only go so far. So what is more important is what you're actually seeing on the display, and that's what our focus has always been in every market segment that we've been into. But that's definitely what our focus is on now. And as we continue to work through that, the process for Pantone validation is only going to get more stringent as time goes on. Because as you asked the question earlier, could competitors go and get Pantone validated? The short answer to that is probably. Maybe we were the first in line. We don't know that side of the story, but what I can say is that without a doubt, some of the levels of validation are where we're going to see more and more advancement, because it's easy to take almost anything and put a colorimeter on it and be able to produce a color with some slight adjustments. But then now suddenly you change properties of ambient lighting, you change properties of the device itself, changing brightness or changing any other property, and now that is no longer validated. What our product is doing that validation throughout all aspects of the changing environment, and that's what makes our product different than really what any other product that could potentially get validated. Because in Pantone's case, it makes sense for them to create an initial validation process that is going to be somewhat simplified in order to produce so that they can expand their capabilities for the manufacturers that they're standing behind. But what we're working with them and their engineering team is how to define what it truly means for direct view LED, because this was a first of in their space as well. For validation purposes, how do we define the next level of validation for this industry?
Aaron, thank you very much for the very rapid and brief education into the space, and helping us learn along the way as to what's going on. If somebody wants to find out more about Neoti, how would they go about doing that?
Sure. Well, the easiest way is go to our website, neoti.com, or give us a call. Our number and all other contact information is on the website, or you can send an email to sales@neoti.com.
Terrific, Aaron. Thank you very much. And I will be seeing you guys, and everybody will be seeing you at InfoComm this year, which is taking place in a couple of weeks. Thank you very much for being on here and chatting with us today.
Great. Thanks, David.
That's it for this week's UC Weekly News. I'm your host, David Danto. Next week, we're going to have my old buddy Sam Kennedy on from Crestron, and he's going to tell us a little bit about a hint into what Crestron is going to be showing at InfoComm this year, some of the new and different and interesting changes and products. And I won't give it away. I'll let Sam talk about it next week. Thank you very much for watching. As always, we appreciate you taking the time, and we'll see you next week.